Hi! Welcome back to the shack. This is KA4UPW. Not very good at this live recording stuff, so you'll have to bear with me. But I'm working on an antenna here. I'm calling the HOA Buster. This is a great little VHF, UHF, and 1296 long periodic built by Creative Design Corporation out of Japan, sold by DX Engineering, and dropped off to me for assembly and review from a friend of mine, Phil, N2EDX. Anyhow, Phil bought this antenna some time ago, and we just got together and we assembled it. So you haven't seen part one. I highly suggest you go back and take a look at it. And if I'm good enough, I'll put that up here somewhere in the right-hand corner so that you can click that button. Otherwise, at the end of the video, I'll have it in the closing. Anyhow. So what can I say about the antenna? Well, it's a great little mini long periodic. It looks a lot like a TV antenna. It looks exactly like a TV antenna. So therefore, you can probably get away with this in most HOAs. Let's go down and take a look at it here. They have several offers. They actually have a 50 megahertz version that'll take you down to 6 meters. But the version we're looking at here is 105 through 1300. So we'll actually cover FM radio, television, as well as the amateur bands. 17 elements, forward gain of 11 to 13 dB. I like to use the free air range. Anyhow, let's see. They tout it's a 500 watt power rating, which is pretty respectable. They give you a VSWR less than 2 to 1. Element length of 1.3 meters. Rotational static, the rotational area is about half of that. And again, wind surface rate, weight, very small and light. Again, if you haven't looked at video 1, go ahead and take a look. The thing is very compact. The smallest and latest of TV rotators will easily rotate this thing with nothing to worry about. So let's take a look at, see if I can, how bad I messed this up. Let's get a little bit more into the specifications here. So again, like we said, 17 elements, 11 dBi, 7 to 8 dB free space. That's probably close to what you're going to realize, right? 15 dB front to back, which is pretty respectable, as well as there's your E&H plane radiation patterns, 500 watt power rating, and an SWR 2 to 1 or less. And this is what we're going to look at this afternoon. Here is their SWR chart. So again, they're showing you at about 100 megahertz up to 1.5 gigahertz, everything being less than 2 to 1. So right now I have the antenna outside set up in my test range, which is my backyard, on a tripod standing about 6 feet off the ground, feeding it with LMR 600 into the shack here. It's about a 50-foot length of LMR 600, and connectors run into my Nano VNA, which you can't see here, but I'm holding it. And we're going to go ahead and scan that antenna and take a look at it and see just how good that SWR really is. If you don't have a Nano VNA, I recommend getting one. These things are handy little devices. So here we go. I've already set it up and scanning it. I'm scanning it from 100 megahertz up to 1.3 gigahertz. There's your Smith chart. For those of you who don't know how to read this, not really important probably. Let's pop this chart out. And is it going to do it? All right, I paused it for a second. So anyway, here's the chart that we just looked at from up to about 1.5 gig. I stopped at 1.3. Here's my actual results, which isn't bad. So what you can see here is I have the top of the scale at about 3. I thought I had that a little bit better. Let's see if I can fix that anyhow. That's fine. Top of the scale is 3 to 1 SWR, 2 to 1 SWR. Here is 1.5 to 1. And you can see that in my actual case, I'm doing well below 1.5 to 1 in all cases. I think my peak here is around 1.7. I have the markers set up at around 148, 436 megahertz and 1.3 gigahertz. Not exactly the center of the ham bands, but because of the sampling of the SDR, it doesn't interpolate in these graphs. It just gives you the exact, I can look at the data at each data point. But you can see the worst peak here at being at 1.5 to 1, basically 1.6 to 1, and quite often much lower than that. All right, so let's go ahead and take another look at these SWRs. I can bring this graph back up here. That beeping is telling me the ISS is coming into view for those UHF satellites. All right, so here we have a frequency of 148 megahertz. If you can see my marker, that's the top left, marker 1 in red. An SWR of 1.284 to 1, 1.3 to 1. Frequency of 436 megahertz. Again, the closest I can get to 432. SWR of 1.048, so 1.05 to 1. And way up here at 1.3 gigahertz, we have an SWR of 1.13 to 1, 1.27, 1.3 to 1. Again, very respectable, very nice antenna. This thing should turn out to be very good for this is like the 9700's perfect companion, right? One antenna, 3 bands, or you can mount it horizontal or vertical. Of course, if you're doing small signal sideband work, you want to be horizontal. It's not the highest gain antenna in the world, so watch your P's and Q's with losses. LMR 400, LMR 600, not that much more expensive, better choice. If you can find some used hardline or some cheap hardline, 5/8 or 7/8 hardline would be even better. The reason is that not too many hams use that. They'll run their big high gain antennas with a lossier coax, especially when you start talking about microwave or 1.5, 1.3 gigahertz. They'll lose a few dB there. So if you run an antenna with slightly less gain, but you make up some of that gain loss by running a really high quality coax, now we're talking about S unit, 2 S units delta, for something that you can hide in plain sight in an HOA, and I think get very good results. So this is the end of part 2. Very simple, very short. Again, go back and watch part 1. You'll see the assembly of the antenna, some good 360-degree views of it as I had it in the shop, and we were just putting it together. And the assembly went pretty well. The instructions are a little bit vague, as most antenna instructions are. Very little in the way of pictures, but yeah, you can figure it out. We did, and we're not geniuses, so. And then finally, part 3 will be the on-the-air testing, which we hope to get to. It'll probably be a couple weeks out. This has got to be delivered to Phil. He's going to install it on his roof, run the coax. And I think he's even got some parts to order yet. So be prepared for part 3 to come out in the following couple of weeks. Anyhow, 7-3s, good luck. Happy DX. This is KA4 UPW.